welcome everyone. It's my great pleasure to be with you today. I'm Dr. Michelle Kelsall, as already been said, and I'm the co-director of the Centre for Human Rights Law at SOAS, University of London. Unlike the program you've just heard about, our human rights program is both an MA or LLM program that is 1 year long, so it's more confined. But I guess the main thing you want to know or understand for today's discussion is what makes our human rights program distinctive, interesting, exciting, and worthwhile in terms of joining us here in London. And the primary answer to that would be that both our approach and the people, professors, and students who'll be joining here in London, we take a critical approach to human rights, both in our law and MA programs. And we see the basis or the foundation for that being the law itself, but then we expand far more greatly from that basis to think about in imaginative and innovative ways how we can understand human rights, and specifically human rights law, in its contemporary context. So for human rights law teaching, it's not simply knowledge exchange. It's about critically engaging with law in class. And we apply and probe critical theories, such as third world approaches to international law and feminist perspectives, because we believe that teaching should be participatory and where students learn both the intellectual and practical skills to explore the role of law to bring about social change. And here at SOAS School of Law, we're fundamentally committed to social change in our contemporary moment. So how is that actually played out in our practice? Well, our academic staff themselves bring with them excellent research profiles. The School of Law itself was ranked first in the UK on the quality of its research outputs. We have published in leading works on the rights of women in Africa, Islamic law, human rights, Al-Haq, which is a Palestinian human rights organization, the first Palestinian human rights organization, in fact, and a range of major other subjects, including a major textbook on human rights law in practice. We have forthcoming works, additionally, in new areas of subfields in international human rights law, including my own work, which is business and human rights. I'm about to bring out a book in the field, which will be called Business and Human Rights in an Unequal World, a genealogy, being published with Oxford University Press next year. Our human rights professors have a wealth of experience of practice in the field, and they come to SOAS having worked as UN independent experts, members of commissions of inquiry, legal advisors to non-governmental organizations, and starters and founders of civil society networks. I myself, again, sorry to talk about myself so much, but have co-founded a women's network known as Atlas, Acting Together Law Advice Support, which now has both female and female identifying lawyers in all 5 continents and 8,500 lawyers across the globe seeking to ensure social change through human rights on a variety of issues. So we carry this blend of theory and practice into the classroom itself, and it very much informs how we reflect on the many dimensions of human rights law, conflict, and justice. The heart of our program, of course, is you, the fantastic group of UK and international students who come to London and here and draw and build on our experiences. We see students as co-creators of our teaching. Many students have contributed greatly to academic life during their time at SOAS and have actively engaged in bringing about justice and building and helping us to build excellent networks. One example of this would be an amicus brief that we wrote with our master's students last year, which became part of the proceedings at the African Court of Human and People's Rights on the right to an election and election rights during the COVID-19 pandemic. Unsurprisingly, many of our students have gone on to pursue careers in the field. So to just give you a snapshot of a particular issue to get a sense, bearing in mind the time, of the kinds of ways in which we might teach, I wanted to to think through a particular human rights concern, and that being the topic of torture. It's a subject that has resulted in over 2 decades of ongoing activism in the aftermath, in particular, of September 11, 2001. Torture remains omnipresent in the media and public debates and is studied across disciplines from political theory, psychology, philosophy, and medicine. The prohibition of torture is one of the pivotal norms in international human rights law. It is absolute, which means that there cannot be any circumstances to justify it. So as you can imagine, this has led to challenges, particularly during the so-called war on terror or war against terror, where states such as the United States and others and academic commentators have sought to justify uses of practices which may be construed in some instances as torture. So how would we teach a subject like this at SOAS? Well, we first identify the legal sources in international law and the obligations of states. We interpret key concepts, such as the distinction between torture and cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, and look at both the jurisprudence and scholarship. This is important because it provides you with a foundation for understanding any concern in human rights. But we don't think this would be satisfactory on its own. We are committed to decolonizing the law, which means to critically analyze the colonial and imperial legacies of torture and law's ambiguities and exclusions. And in addition, to see this in the context of the everyday lives of persons across the globe, to see how it affects parties and the role of race, class, and gender in thinking through these issues. So thinking beyond the detention context, we then also think about the notion and how the doctrinal debates apply to systemic situations such as poverty and the effect of climate change, and another major question with respect to imprisonment. So this is just one example to give you a sense of how we at SOAS would think through the issues. We'd start from the basis of the jurisprudence and law, but we'd very much engage with a critical imaginary. And we focus on not only what's happening in the classroom, but also key actors in the anti-torture movement, and takes us beyond human rights bodies and courts. Before I close, I just want to say a few words about our growing and increasingly popular clinical teaching opportunities. The International Human Rights Clinic works with organisations active in the field and offers students the opportunity to engage in research and advocacy with selected national and international partner organisations. We're also a member of the University of London Refugee Law Clinic and facilitate internships with organisations supporting refugees' rights. Finally, the Centre for Human Rights Law itself is another focal point for our clinical work and has produced, as I've mentioned, amicus briefs, amongst others. And we're working on a research project this year that helps internally displaced persons in securing access to documents so they can exercise their rights in Syria. And this work is very much a part of our ethos of student-led teaching and critical engagement, both inside and beyond the classroom at SOAS. So thank you very much for coming with me on this whirlwind tour of what we offer at SOAS. I hope it's given you a glimpse and a sense of what we offer and what you can expect to study if you come and join us at SOAS. I'm very much looking forward to your questions and comments and a lively discussion with my colleague, whose program also sounds fascinating. Thank you.